Peace, 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 peace. Peace, love, and light to all the American Aborigines. Peace and love to all the Aborigines around the globe. And peace and blessings to all the like minded brothers and sisters that will be tuning in to this live stream. It's your brother Aboriginal Power. This is the Dr. Longo interview part 2. Let's start the intro as proper. Let's go.
Suave on the track.
Whatever it takes. It's Hallie. Just say when. Just say when. Just say when. Just say when. I gotta feed the block for what he's on. I'm gonna lose his top, yeah. All the time that I lost, I'm watching both hands on top of the clock, yeah. My niggas, they say I'm the one, I had to believe inside I'm a pop, yeah. I got a voice inside, they tell me to live, and I can't stop, yeah. Just say when.
I'm waiting for you just
say when.
I'm waiting for you just
say when.
I'm waiting for you just
say when.
Waiting.
Roll now, I was watching it go down. I don't feel like I'm home now. All the love that I get from the whole town, yeah, we know that it's up now. Thank God that we moved from whole pounds, we be rocking them shows now. Paranoid that I got from a past life, got me gripping the 4 pound. One life I was living before now, now we breaking the dough down. Same pain that's inside of my heart, nigga, on God I won't fold now. Shine light, gotta shine on the whole crowd, show the world how to glow now. God body what I'm giving the world now, cause I'm showing my son how. Gotta move and think like AK. Gotta move and think like AK. Gotta move and think like AK. Like AK, yeah. I gotta feed the block for what he's on, gonna lose his top, yeah. All the time that I lost, I'm watching both hands on top of the clock, yeah. My niggas, they say I'm the one, I had to believe inside I'm a pop, yeah. I got a voice inside, they tell me to live, and I can't stop, yeah. Just say when. Just say when. Just say when. Just say when.
Waiting.
Just say when.
I'm waiting for you just
say when.
I'm waiting for you just
say when.
I'm waiting for you just
say when.
Waiting.
Shout out to everybody in the building. We just getting started with the intro. I want everybody to hit that like button, share the live stream, man. This is going to be a classic one right here in the making already, man. I need y'all to hit that like button, thumb up the video, and support the channel. Shout out to everybody in the building. Make sure y'all support the channel. All right, so let's get it going, man. Let's start it with the...
It's Hallie. I really been feeling. Yeah. We gotta carry on. Like Mr. Caldwell saying, I know that faith is all we need. I hear them church bells ring. A lot of strange shit is going on inside of this train. Programs is being ran and shit is one and the same. When your thought pattern is different, they look at you strange. The same ones you used to see me with, now we get strange. Cause now my mission different, it's some shit I gotta attain. As I go inside my mother's womb, my soul was ordained, I battle alone. The war zone is Babylon. My one task is to bring the flock and the cattle on. Trying to change the vibration while niggas they Babylon. Now focused on getting my money tower of Babylon. My catalog is self-subscribed, I'm staying strong. I know my destination, I travel, don't know the roads. Don't give a fuck about the status and status quo's. Combative is data low, cannot compute with this blockchain. I'm pinging off of towers, can't triangulate my pen game. I'm off the grid, the lyrical EMP. They try to follow down a rabbit hole that's filled with TNC. The last of a dying breed, just aim fire and squeeze at demonic chapters. I know the sigil on his sleeve.
And crush the regalia, shining like diamonds to deceive. I show you wonderland, it's up to you if you believe. The son of the matrix, shining like nothing you conceive. A bomb with a pen, removing nothing's gonna leave a line by the wind. We smell percussion in the breeze, the drummer go in and leave nothing but the leaves, a nod and a grin. Be the last thing you ever see, and the problem with him lead to a problem with a den. A lion sent down from Zion, bringing drama to your kin. I promise I'm like Obama or Osama, it depends on how God order my steps. When you stepping up to him, I'm different. Can politic or demolish them, pick a fence and stay behind it, cause the lions is out again.
Make sure I hit that like button, y'all.
Whatever it takes. Exactly.
Cleaning your paper out.
This shit crazy.
Feel nothing at all. Put my pain and don't feel nothing at all. Yeah. Yeah, for my pain, it don't feel nothing at all. For these niggas now, ain't nothing but God. I had to move around with nothing but frauds. I tried to bring the team together, get my vision involved. I gave a plan, but niggas scrambled. It's time to pick up that claw. You can't get 1,500 in a 6-week span. Time to pay up, everybody goes, I be down. I should've seen it. All I got is Rain, Slim, Tim, you know it's Teach. I got Tay and I got Leaf. I got Deja and Salih. I got Foreign, they got Feet. They say your name, that's cause you preach. Them niggas folded under heat. No umbrella, let them shots rain down. You believe the dream to stand up, if not lay down. Let it rain down. If you my nigga, then just say it. If you ain't got it, then just say it. Let it rain down. Yeah, my nigga, then just say it. Let it rain down. Let it rain down. Right, this shit crazy. Yeah, we gotta weather the storm. If you don't understand, get better informed. I'm from the and my trust really weathered and torn. With my niggas from the sandbox, put this shit on top some water, but we playing live. But y'all want the same shit, but can't get on the same page. How about if y'all really want it? Niggas just be saying things, replacing with y'all lives now. Every that I pipe down. Yeah, I was chilling for a minute, but I'm live now. Niggas talking about the past, come get with me right now. Come and really see my grind. Come and see me live now. I'm live now. I'm live now. Come and see me live now. Ain't no umbrella, let them shots rain down. You believe the dream, then stand up, if not lay down. Let it rain down. My nigga, then just say it. You ain't got it, then just say it. Let it rain down. Yeah, ain't no umbrella, let them shots rain down. You believe the dream, then stand up, if not lay down. Let it rain down. If you my nigga, then just say it. If you ain't got it, then just say it. Let it rain down. Let it rain down. Yeah, my nigga, did you say it? You my brother, did you say it? Let it rain down. Let it rain down. Right, this shit crazy.
Shout out to everybody in the building, man. First and foremost, I want to shout out to all the people that's tuning in. All right, we just getting started. We got the brother Dr. Longo in here with us again, man. We looking for part 2, man. The first one, if y'all have not got to check it out, make sure you go on the channel and check it out, man. We almost at 21,000 views on that particular interview. It was a good conversation, man. We better get into part 2. Hopefully this is just as good as the last one. So we ready to get into it, man. Dr. Longo, you got the flow, man, to talk to the folks real quick.
Well, thanks for having me, AP. I'm glad to be back. Yeah, I got a great response on my channel from what we did as well. So yeah, very excited to be back.
Yeah, man. It was definitely a good response. Also had some naysayers. What do you say to the naysayers before we get started? I want to give a disclaimer. We're not going to tolerate none of that extra stuff in the chat today. We're here for like-minded brothers and sisters that's here for some information that maybe they possibly know or possibly don't know. So we're here to drive and challenge mainstream history, archaeology, anthropology, and just the story that they're giving us in general, because we didn't call them in so many lies. So we're on the point of proving and contradicting what they're saying. So we're on this truth journey, man. So we want like-minded brothers and sisters to stay optimistic and open-minded throughout this whole live stream. All right, man. What'd you say to the naysayers, man?
Fuck them. I don't care. They can, some people, I guess, to put it bluntly, some people don't like to hear it from a white face. I can understand that. Some people might feel like they're their an Aboriginal identity might be a way to one up someone. If you don't have anything else to bring to the table, you might be. It's the same thinking that if it were a white person turned on anyone else, it would be
Right.
it would be seen as very bad. And I've been on channels that have called people pale face. My favorites are Caucasoid, pale face, all these things, and these are slurs. I don't care. I could care less. I think it's funny.
Right. Well, let's get straight into it, man.
All
You
right.
had a couple interviews since our last discussion, man. We're going to kind of pick right where we left off at last time. And one of your most credible videos that I've seen, and one of the most intriguing correlations that you do, is the Islamic correlation to the Americas. And how, I want you to elaborate how the Cuba correlates with the Kaaba and how important that Kaaba is to American history.
hmm So the Caribbean and Gulf area received a large amount of meteorites, asteroids, whatever the proper term is, something coming down from the heavens and landing there. Whether it was large amounts of moldavite, iridium, various different stones have come down there. And I was just talking today on my Instagram live with Nabi or Arisha or whatever he goes by. Osiris, you said. We were talking about how a lot of these precious minerals came down from heaven into the Gulf of Mexico, into the Caribbean. And it's one of the most mineral rich areas, especially if you're thinking of meteors. So the Chicxulub crater is down there. Chicxulub crater is at the tip of the Yucatan. So that's where, the Kaaba, for those that don't know, in Medina, Mecca, Saudi Arabia, there's a box, a cube that is worshipped by Islam, by Muslim people. They do rings around it. And this cube, called the Kaaba, so cube and Kaaba, keep that in mind. From Mecca, keep that in mind too. Basically, it's a meteorite, a piece of a stone protected in a different kind of metallic case within a cube. And that's worshipped, but they are very unsure about the origin of that stone. Now, the way that I got onto the Cuba Kaaba story was in the Bible. The Christian Bible tells the Noah's Ark story one way, and the Jews tell it a different way. And then Islam tells it a little bit of a different way too. Not entirely, but the
Correct.
Islamic account distinctly says, the majority of them describes how Noah's Ark circled the Kaaba in the midst of the flood. So when the flood came, the Kaaba would have been hundreds of feet underwater, probably. So how is it that a boat could circle that area? And yes, some people are going to say, oh, that's allegorical, it's transcendental, it's symbolic, and that may be true, but that doesn't negate the literal interpretation. So we would be foolish to throw out the literal interpretation and to say it's meaningless. So, and why does their interpretation differ from the Christian? Well, they say Noah's Ark circled the Kaaba 3 times. Now, if you've been following my channel, you'll know that Noah's Ark almost definitely left the Mississippi area, either the Gulf of Mexico, northwest coast of Florida, or the Mississippi River from Arkansas, right? With a city by the name of Arkadelphia, a Greek word, Arkadelphia. So E.E. Calloway said that Noah's Ark left Florida because of the gopher wood. And then we have the anchors in Tampa that John Saxer did the research on. So you have the wood from the boats, you have the anchors from the boats. You know, let's just give him the benefit of the doubt and say Noah's Ark left the Gulf of Mexico area. If that is true, if Noah's Ark departed from the Gulf of Mexico area, it would make perfect sense that when getting flushed around during a flood in the Gulf of Mexico, like a toilet bowl, that the peaks of the Caribbean islands, such as Cuba, maybe Haiti, would be poking out of the sea, and that a ship that's getting flushed, around like a toilet bowl in the Gulf of Mexico would and could circle an island, possibly Cuba, 3 times before being flushed fully out into the Atlantic Ocean, where it then traveled relatively, more linearly to where it landed in the mountains of Ararat. And this is your Sumeria, Babylonia, your first civilizations. We all know that's not true, but it's where civilization picked up, because after the flood, they were able to pick up right where they left off. Whereas much of the other places, if you weren't at the top of a mountain already, or if you weren't underground somewhere protected, you had to start from scratch, much of civilization. So the Kaaba, Cuba, circling the Kaaba is what made me start looking in that direction. That they were talking about Cuba, because Kaaba is a cube. So if you take the word Kaaba and the word Cuba, mix those together, you get Cuba, right? Cuba. Cuba is in the Gulf of Mexico, right near the Gulf of Mexico. The Yucatan is poking up. Mecca is Mexico. Olmec. I'm definitely not the first person to put that together. That the Olmec or the Ol Mecca, Meccans, the people from Mecca are
Mecca.
Mexican.
Right?
Mexicans.
You think of a city where a lot of people gather for commerce, spiritual practices, and Olmec are located in Mexico. Is there a large city that continues to be occupied by people today in Mexico?
Sorry, is there a city? What was the question?
Is there a large city that's thriving today that was historically thriving during the time of Olmec and Inca people?
I mean, Mexico City itself, it's
Okay.
dried up today. That's the interesting thing about Mexico City, is that it's dried up today, and it's in the lake bed. So they built the city in the dried up lake bed of what used to be a lush tropical lake with a artificial island in the middle, kind
That
of
they call
like a
Tenochtitlan, right?
exactly a reed city. So it was a reed city that was so strong that they could build stone on top of the reed. That's incredible. They had gold like you would not believe, especially. But yeah.
So in other words, Noah wouldn't have been in Mississippi. He would have been on that Mississippi River dump out, right? He
Well,
would have been
yes,
right there in that Gulf of Mexico where it dumps out now.
exactly. He was lucky. If you were already on the sea in one of these large ark ships, so the way that we're given the story is that Noah only made one ark, right? Well, that's not necessarily true. That story is kind of boiled down into a very transmittable, small. There's very small, few components to the story, right? Noah, his wife, the animals, and the boat. That's the passed down version. That's the boiled down version. Well,
That's true.
originally, this Noah myth is the same myth as Atlantis, and the Garden of Eden and the fall of man is the same myth as Atlantis. It was ripped off of Greek mythology.
But okay, and so now we're putting some distance between Noah and in another geographical location. We're bringing possibly a relic or memorabilia brought from this particular area during
Mhm.
a cataclysm and took it over there, and now being revered by millions of
Exactly.
people today. Right? Is that what you're
Yep.
telling me?
Yeah, I think you I think you painted the picture better than I did. Yeah, that's exactly what happened. There was pieces of asteroids, there were sacred stones, sacred minerals that are only found here. That's why they won't do any testing on the stone in Mecca, because it's too holy, right? Too holy, that's what they'll say. But they could test it and determine where it's from. I'm not saying they should. I'm saying they could if they wanted to. And I would bet some money that it comes from the Gulf of Mexico. There's evidence that it comes from the Gulf of Mexico. I don't want to say too much on that yet, but I know you know Duke Asir, Duke of Tears.
Yes, I've got a couple live streams with him. That's a good brother of mine.
Yeah,
Shout out to the Duke.
he's talked about. I only got onto him recently after the Fertile Crescent video, but he talks about much of the same stuff, especially with the Olmec. He made the Olmec connection long before I ever did. Olmec, Olmeca, Mexico, you know, yeah, all techs and technology comes out of the Gulf of Mexico area historically in ancient times, because of all the minerals and these highly valuable minerals that are used in technological devices as they are today. Like in Haiti, you know, they have those very
Right.
valuable.
So we're in the flood story. So right. So we got pretty
Okay.
much this continent totally being engulfed, or at least a particular area being engulfed. Is it safe to say that Florida could possibly be the first piece of this land out of the water and to actually recover first?
Now, as far as being out of the water, it would have been the higher altitude areas that would have been sticking out of the water first, but you're right about bouncing back to normal. It's just obvious from the Gulf Stream, from the springs that ooze out of Florida, that when a cataclysm would happen, whether it was flood or freeze, so we know that the northern hemisphere periodically freezes, and we have evidence of that. Whether you're into the mainstream history or not, there's pretty tangible evidence that yes, there was multiple ice ages. Obviously, their timelines are not like what we're told, but they were true. And in times of flood, it may be freezing in the northern hemisphere and flooding in the southern hemisphere, and not vice versa, but similar effects. So when you have a cataclysm like a freeze, the northern hemisphere entirely will be covered in ice. Most of Europe, most of North America. The Gulf of Mexico, due to the Gulf Stream and the spring water that oozes out with such a high magnitude that even if a glacier was sitting right on top of it, it would melt that glacier in an instant. So nothing was able to freeze over Florida or the Gulf of Mexico. This is why that entire area is still limestone, because the limestone's crust, the surface of the planet, never got scraped away by glaciers, whereas most of the northern hemisphere was carved down to granite by glaciers. So Florida is piled up stone, and it was not.
So we're ultimately looking at most of North America, and when I'm thinking of North America, I'm thinking anything north of Minnesota, right? You can almost feel the resemblance, see the resemblance of the remaining thawing of what we call in the ice age, and then these glacial dams break, floods of water occurring, chunks of ice, right, the size of cities, sometimes scraping the land, creating these canals, canyons, and valleys that we see today.
Yes. Exactly.
So you're telling me that during this time of this cataclysm, someone was smart enough to gather, build up, right? And people from America, right? Very advanced people from America was able to make their way to the Eastern Hemisphere. Is it safe to say that one of the rebuilding or grouping sites could have been Gobekli Tepe, which is not too far from those places that you mentioned over
Yeah,
there.
is that Turkey? I'm
Yes, that's
not.
yes.
Okay, yes. So here's something that people aren't going to like to hear either. So you have you know how they stopped saying Indian and they stopped saying Redskin and they started saying um, First Nations people, First Nations, right? You know this. It's like kind of synonymous with Aboriginal, not entirely, but from their perspective.
Right.
Well, when they say that, there's a little bit of truth in this because First Nation you have would include people like Cherokees, Iroquois. Well, let's take a look at those words, Cherokee and Iroquois. Like you just said, this would have been like possibly Creek ancestors of the Creek or the Cherokee. This is why the Cherokee have Greek DNA to this day. The same DNA as Greek and Palestine are found in the Cherokee today. So that's proven by genetic tests and not the mainstream geneticists. This is a geneticist that got pushed out of the mainstream because he proved ancient Cherokee are the true Greeks and the true Jews. So Jew has a lot of different words. I'm
And
not.
Greek would have came much later than this Noah story. This would have been later civilizations that would have still had this story of a flood. And it's not ironic that the Greek are the last
Yeah.
remaining story
So
that
well,
we get this Atlantis story.
you said Gobli Teki. That's Turkey, and then they tell us that civilization started in Sumeria, right, or Iraq, right? Well, on one side of the Atlantic, you have Cherokee and Iroquois. On the other side of the Atlantic, you have Iraqi and Greek. Sorry, Greek. So Creek on one side, Greek on the other, and they're the same. People roll their eyes at that. I'm going to be proving that without a shred of doubt in my upcoming video about the Greeks, ancient Greeks in Florida and America, ancient America, genetically, linguistically, sartorially, which means clothing. You can prove it with the clothing. You can prove it with the musically, artistically. You can prove it architecturally. Every aspect you look at it from, it can be substantiated that Greek people either come from America or share a common ancestor to the Native Americans. Probably.
Okay. Well, since I gotta ask you this, right? Since we at this point, you're doing your research, and I want to get some of your own opinion based off of your own observation. Do you believe that the Greek came here? Or are you in more leaning towards the Creek leaving from here, going there, and then later on becoming
Yeah,
Greek?
so before there was Creek, there would have been Atlanteans that would have been covering the Atlantic coast of America, but would have been most centered around Tampa Bay, Florida. So Tampa Bay, Florida, also borderline Creek
Can
territory.
we get just a little snippet of some of the clothing as you speak on this? Can we get a little snippet of maybe a look of what the clothing would have looked like compared to the Greek and the Creek? As
Oh
you
yeah.
know, our people like to see some visuals. Shout out to everybody in the chat, man. We got 222 people in here. We just hitting almost at the 30-minute marker. Make
Nice.
sure y'all hit that like button if you are enjoying the live stream. Support the channel, you guys. Shout out to everybody.
Yeah, I think I've got a good one for you. I've got a Greek. I've got a ton on the language, but I can show you.
And I know you saving a lot of this for your own particular build leading up to
No,
this.
that's not it. That's not it. I'm just disorganized. Let me pull it up for you.
Shout out to everybody in the building, man. We getting into some conversation. I got a few things I'm a piggyback with brother Dr. Longo and screen share as well. And I want to kind of touch on some things as you bring this up about some of the ice age in North America. We found some archaeology in America that goes back 17,000 years. That's roughly a few thousand years before. And what's ironic that you find is hoodies and pants being made, double insulated hoodies being made at 17,000 years, almost that if they was preparing to sustain themselves in this somewhat cold area.
Yeah, that's a good angle. Because that makes sense because you have agriculture popping up really early compared to some of the other places in South America. Florida, even, they have evidence of corn like hundreds of years before corn was being used anywhere else in Florida, which also like rewrites the whole narrative. But you asked for you asked for clothing. The Trojan War was largely believed to be mythical, right? Well, I'm going to show you here that ancient depictions, this is an ancient Greek vase pottery, right? And I'm going to show you how some of these are depicting Native American women, or what we would think of today. Here's a good example. This is allegedly a Greek or a Scythian warrior being depicted in a full body kind of polka dot diamond design. Well, if you know about native designs, this is a Native American pattern. This is not used in Greek or Asiatic or Mediterranean pattern.
That is dope.
And look at that, he's smoking a peace pipe like a Native American, right?
That's dope. Because he looks like one of the Mayan gods or the Mayan deity. Are you familiar with one of the Olmec deities, the black god? I forget his. I'm gonna pull it up right quick, just the image, just so we can see. Don't this look similar?
So here's a really, really good one. Now, this one almost perfectly depicts what most people would kind of call like a Pocahontas type Native American. And I know everyone's, a little, debating who's Native, who's this, who got there where. But all I'm trying to say here is this is distinctly American clothing and design and aesthetic being seen in pottery where it does not belong, in Greece, right? In Mesopotamia, across the Atlantic. So this right here, you see that good?
Yep.
Okay, so this is
that one image that you showed looks like Olmec deity. That one guy that was smoking a pipe looks very similar to an Olmec deity, which looked like it might be in what we would call Greek style clothing as well.
Yes. Now this one's a dead giveaway. This is actually a depiction of the Battle of Troy, Trojan War, Achilles versus an Amazonian woman. So remember, in some of these legends, the Amazonian women were so tall and strong that they could defeat the Greek men easily. So we're not saying the Greek are this people and they're only that people, and we're not trying to say who the true Aboriginal Americans are, but we're exploring the world of other people crossing the Atlantic before Columbus. And I'm going to show you that right here. We're going to zoom in on this lady. This is a captive woman that is clearly depicted as a Native American. And you can make the argument that it's an Asiatic. It's not an Aboriginal Native American. It's an Asiatic Native American. But nonetheless, you're going to see how this shows transatlantic contact. This woman is depicted unlike any woman or clothing in other Greek pottery. And of course, we're told these are mythical battles. So why would any mainstream historian look into her designs and stuff like that? You see the concentric diamonds, you see polka dot, and you see almost like deerskin clothing, and you see a headband and a feather in her ear as well. So, and it looks like a tattoo under the lip, under the bottom lip. So now I'm going to show you, this is a Native American pattern. You see this, the concentric diamonds? We see this precisely in the patchwork of this Native American woman that we're told is an Amazonian woman. Well, where's the Amazon? In America. Right. Exactly. So I think I might have a couple. Here's Artemis being depicted again with strangely American clothing. A headband, bow and arrow, loose fitting clothing, barefoot. So I'm going to show you one. It just might take me a sec to pull it up. We've got picture somewhere of Greek men in a toga, like in ancient Greek, and then Creek natives in togas. And here's one of those polka dot designs too that we were seeing. Also a Native motif, Native American motif. I'm gonna pull it up. It's gonna take me a sec to find, but it's a really, really good one. Here's a pepper in Florida that only grows in this small area of Florida that was allegedly brought by Greek immigrants. They don't know the official story on that pepper. Here's a stone depicting Greek iconography and actually Paleo-Greek, so like pre-ancient Greek, pre-Hebrew, and they're smoking pipes. They're fighting war. They have Greek symbols, and look at this. He has a Star of David on his chest. This guy right here. So this would be so far back in history that this is before Hebrew and Greek split off into different groups. And some people don't like to hear that, but linguistically it can be substantiated. So this is from America, this stone. And here's another one of those diamond patterns that we saw on that Native American woman. Here's the same pattern. So now I'm going to show you some Scythian warriors. And you tell me, if you changed the face, if that doesn't look like a extra geared up Native American in her deer skin, bows, tassels, etc. This is supposedly a Scythian woman from Central Asia. And indigo dye, the Phoenicians made their whole thing all their money off dye. Well, Florida is home to about a dozen different varieties of indigo in the Southeast United States as well.
That's dope. Yeah, I mean, I know the people eating up this correlation and some of the resemblance that you pulling up, man. Drop a fire emoji in the chat, you guys, if you can see what he's showing on the screen pretty clear. And if you guys are enjoying the live stream as well, drop a fire emoji in the chat. Don't forget to hit the like button, share the live stream, and support the channel, man. If you ain't subscribed to the channel.
So here's an ancient carving on a rock in America that was done by Cherokees. Okay, we know for a fact it was done by Cherokees. Now, do you know how much of the Cherokee language is identical to ancient Greek? A large, large amount of it, especially words like military words and athletic words, things that would be retained generation to generation. They're still the same today as ancient Greek. And in 1823, a man by the name of John Johnston, a white guy who was Greek from Greece, or partially, and he could speak ancient Greek or could read and write ancient Greek. He wrote a letter to the chief of the Cherokee in 1823. And do you know what language he wrote that letter in to the Cherokee chief before the Civil War?
I'm going to take a wild guess and say Greek.
Exactly. Ancient Greek. So right here we have proof of this in Cherokee. And Creek is kind of just like South Cherokee or Southern Cherokee, a relative to the Cherokee, common ancestors between the two. Not entirely, but largely. Ho ni Kasa. That's Cherokee. In Greek, O ni Kasa, meaning the victor, like Nike, the god of victory, Nike, the god of athletics. This is the same in Greek and Creek or Cherokee. Here's one of those Here's one of the Native American suit. This is precisely the Native American suit that I was just showing you on the Greek vases with the polka dot with the headbands. You can even see they have the thin headbands with their hair, ponytails on either side, and the polka dotted dress. I'm trying to find this really good one for you. But here, words the same between Greek and Cherokee. A shit ton.
Damn.
For example, assembly, house, same word in both languages. Karanos and Koranu. Herald, Katius and Katius, same word. Contest or ball play, Mona, Mana, same word, right? One not killed, or the name of a dragon. Ugigis, Utskaya, Uktena, Uktena, Aulantata, Ulunksata. I mean, these are the same words, and that's just one page. The list goes on and on. Ancient Greek and Cherokee, largely the same language.
That's funny because when you start breaking down these particular groups and you compare them to cultures on the Eastern Hemisphere, you can almost identify each group, religious group in the Eastern Hemisphere with a particular nation here. It
Absolutely.
almost tie as well for
Absolutely.
Algonquin in the Arabic, the Shemitic and the Seminoles or Hebrew culture. You can find it within almost all these particular cultures that you find here. Uh, within I got an image I want to show you just to piggyback off of the potential or possibly could be Greek connection. This is one of the ancient deities. This is Yucatan post-classic Mayan god
Oh,
M.
yeah.
If you see some
Yeah,
of the out here.
that looks just like him. That looks just like him. The
So,
pipe smoker.
yeah, I thought that was pretty neat to make that correlation. It looked like the same imagery. And when
Oh,
we
I got
dealing
another
with,
one.
go ahead, let's get it.
I just made this one today. Sorry to cut you off.
No,
But,
you good. You good.
I
That's what
just
we're here
saw it.
for.
So you know how Greek people always say "opa," right? When you go to a Greek restaurant or see them on TV, they always say "opa, opa." It's like their it's like the national exclamation of the people, right? It's
Oh,
like,
okay.
so it's no coincidence that we have.
Oh, you gotta show your screen again.
Here we go. It's no coincidence that we have Opa Laka, Florida, which would have been inhabited at one time by Creek natives in Florida. So Opa Laka in Florida, home to the Creeks. Well, let's take a look at Florina, Greece. Same architecture, both sides of the Atlantic.
And they would have said Opa.
Exactly. Opa Laka, Opa in Greece. Opa is a Creek word or a Seminole, Miccosukee word. Opa, Opa Laka, Opa Wisha Taka, Opa Tisha Waka Laka is
That's dope.
the true name. But they just kept it to Opa Laka, right? Like opening the doors, locking the door, right? Lock it behind you. So Florina, Florida, same architecture with the Moorish minarets, and then you have Creek in Greek. If that's not a home run, I don't know what is.
Nah, that's a dope correlation, man. Hey, man, y'all see it in the chat? Drop them fire emojis, man. Opalaka, Florida is what you see on your right hand, and the place where they would have said Opa as an exclamation or greeting or a statement in Florinian Greece. Look at the structures there; they are very compelling.
Mm-hmm.
They're almost like mirroring towns. It's almost like the same exact people spoke
Oh
the
yeah.
same geometric language
Yep.
and geometry structures
Mm-hmm.
that
Same.
built the one in Florida and the people that wanted to build the one in Florinian, which is not ironic. Is it possible that the people, the Greek, right? I mean, the Creek that left out of Opalaka possibly could have went to Greece and named this place Florinian?
Exactly. Absolutely. Florida has the name of two Greco-Roman goddesses in it. Florida, Flora, and Ida. So Flora is a Roman goddess, of fertility, light, springtime, and Easter. Ida is a Greek goddess who was the nurse of Zeus, and Zeus is Jupiter, same guy, and the mother of Minos. So these are the Minoans, right? So the mother of Minos is Florida. What does that tell you? Florida is the mother of the Minoans.
And let's get into some of
Menorcans.
the cultural connections between the Minoans and some more tribes in Florida. What are the Minoans known for? If you can elaborate. Seafaring, advanced technology, high relief carving.
Yes, seafarers. And you know, it's the Minoans take their name from Minos. Okay, well, another people who take their name from Minos is the Menorcans. And what I've been telling you that thus far is kind of like a hidden history and is not talked about. It's not accepted. It's not validated. It's not given light of day in the mainstream. But let me tell you.
This is what we're here for. We love hidden history.
Right.
We love it. Bring it out.
Well, what I'm about to tell you is mainstream history. And even the mainstream history is so odd and so unusual, it'll have you, questioning what the hell they're talking about. Florida in 1765 was populated by over 1,000 Greeks, 1,500 Greeks from the Greek islands. Minorca, well, that's in Spain, but they're culturally Greek. So the Balearic Islands, Greece itself, Turks, Ottomans, all these different people, Italians, way before the founding fathers were even getting together. 10 years before the Constitution was even signed, you had Florida being populated by thousands of Greeks. So even though that's mainstream history, why don't people know that Florida was a Greek colony? Everyone knows that it was a Spanish colony, Spanish Florida, but nobody knows about the Greeks in Florida. It was Scottish overseers and Greek workers. That's what we're told. Well, why did the Greek choose to come back to Florida? Or sorry, I just revealed the game right there. But why did they choose to go to Florida? Why did they choose Florida under the British Empire instead of somewhere else? Why didn't they just stay under Ottoman rule in Greece?
What is the first city in America? Is it St. Augustine?
It is St. Augustine officially.
Okay.
Now, but it's funny you say that because New Smyrna is just south of there. New Smyrna, people allege, is the true oldest city. Do you want to watch a video? We could watch a cool video.
Yeah, as long as it don't get us copyright straightened. You know what I'm saying?
No,
Shut up.
you'll be okay.
All right, let's get it. Shout out to everybody in the building, man. We got 269 in the building. We at a little bit over the 45-minute marker. Make sure y'all hit that like button. Y'all copy down some of these references, correlations. We're just getting started, man. It's about to get deep. So I want y'all to hit that like button, thumb up the video, support the channel if you're enjoying the live stream. Let's get it.
All right, I'm just looking for it. Okay, I wonder if we can get audio from this if I just play it through. Okay, I can present a video file. All right, it's got to upload for a sec, I think. Oh, no, it's ready. Ready when you are.
Research and says Florida's oldest city is right here in Central Florida. West 2's Amanda Ober shows us how history could be changing.
For the location being Mosquito.
If Harris Samuels is correct, New Smyrna should really be known as Old Smyrna.
I'm not the first one to think of this.
Samuel says on a visit to St. Augustine, he noticed a map from 1589 claiming to show that city as the oldest continuously occupied city in America looked an awful lot like New Smyrna. more specifically, Ponce Inlet.
It may be that when St. Augustine was first founded, it was at this location, and then moved within months.
Samuel says after 10 years of research, he's found significant evidence that the old map actually shows the first Spanish settlement was in New Smyrna. Samuels points to the ruins in New Smyrna's old Fort Park as a clue. The origin of these ruins has long been a mystery and the topic of debate, but Samuels is convinced that this is what's left of a fort referred to on old Spanish maps as the original St. Augustine. Samuel says the fort was burned down by Englishman Sir Francis Drake, and at some point after that, St. Augustine was established in its current location. Samuel's research does have the potential to rewrite history, but he says what he's most interested in is preserving it.
My interest is just to see that this doesn't get lost.
In New Smyrna Beach in Volusia County, Amanda Ober reporting, West.
That is crazy.
So yeah, why would they lie about a city? You know, it's only like 20 miles away. I could be off on that. It's only like an hour drive max, right? You could walk from New Smyrna to New Smyrna to St. Augustine if you really wanted to. So why wouldn't they admit that New Smyrna is actually the oldest city in America? Because it's a Greek city. It's a Greek name, New Smyrna. Smyrna is an ancient Greek city. So New Smyrna, this was named in 1765. So 1765, there was Greek people in America. But even before that, it was before, 200 years before that, they were in New Smyrna. The Spanish, but they won't tell the story. Why won't they tell the story? It's because it all goes back to the Greeks, the Creek natives, etc. You had a more sophisticated empire in the Americas that landed in Eurasia, essentially.
So and that makes reference of why the Greek held hold to this story of this great cataclysm, because where this cataclysm happened at is ultimately where their ancestral land is, which is in America. So shout out to all the American Aborigines. Hopefully y'all enjoying some of this drop, man. I want to get into some of the anthropology in America. We know we have what we will call Negroid inhabitants that been here on the planet for as long as whoever want to guess, right? But we know that we have other races. Some speculate and even argue that the pale skin, right, has only been around for 3,000 to 6,000 years, and it wasn't in America until colonialism or colonization. You have a different theory on that, dealing with the flaw. You have a different theory than that. A little bit dealing with the Florida bog bodies. Can you elaborate on what is the Florida bog bodies?
Yeah, it's not my theory. It's definitely not my theory, but I posted about it. So, I'll post about if I come across Moorish history. I'm not pretending that's my history and putting it up there. Just like when I come across, this, the stuff that points to the bog bodies and their possible European origin. I'm not throwing that out there. In fact, in the title, I think I put a question mark at the end of the title in there. But basically, the bog bodies found in Florida, some of the oldest burials in the United States, the oldest purposefully buried modern humans with textile clothing, advanced woven clothing, pottery, all these things. Florida is unique because I have a picture from a museum that says, why aren't there any dinosaur bones in Florida? So why aren't there any dinosaur bones in Florida? If Florida has the most undisturbed archaeological record in the world, one of them, because of the alkalinity of the water, like you were saying earlier, why aren't there any dinosaur bones? Well, that's a topic for another day. But what I'm trying to say
Absolutely.
is there's a completely clean archaeological record in Florida. There's no volcanic activity and there's no seismic activity for at least like 8,000, 10,000 years back. Well, why that's important is because they have found bodies in Florida that have European DNA that are 7,000 plus years old. Now, that's being pulled out of swamps in Florida, and these people were buried in a swamp intentionally in a kind of mummification process. So we can watch. I think we might be able to watch that video too if you want about the DNA.
Let's
But
get it.
basically, this guy got in a lot of trouble because he did DNA research on genetic testing on these bodies. And when people were kind of telling him not to, and he found that they came back as European. Now, you could expand the definition of European to say Eurasian, that anyone from across the Atlantic might qualify. But I would say that this is best demonstrated in the Cherokee and Creek natives, like we were just talking about, who have haplogroup X. Haplogroup X is only found across the Atlantic in North Africa, Israel, Greece, Palestine, those areas, right? Eastern Mediterranean area. And so blah, blah, blah. They pulled these bodies out of a bog in Florida in the 1980s. And when they found them, they were so well preserved that they called the police because they thought it was a murder because the bodies were so fresh, they thought someone had just dumped them, right? So when they pull them up, they see European. When they pull them up and test them, they actually get European DNA. And the guy who released that got in a lot of trouble. So, obviously I can assume the first reaction to a lot of people would have to that would be, why aren't we finding, quote unquote, burials like that all the time? And recently we actually did. So only a couple of years ago, they found another burial and they were able to confirm the age. So you might not like carbon dating, right? Carbon dating is like has a lot of holes in it. It's not very reliable. Well, they were able to substantiate this 7,000 plus year timeline by sea level rise, because the other site that they found was found off the coast of Florida, off the coast of like Venice, Florida. It's called the Minnesota Key offshore site. And they found that in the ocean, and it was hundreds of feet in the ocean. So that means it had to have been put there, had to have been buried in a swamp before that area was ocean. So that means at least 7,000 years ago, when the sea levels were lower, that area was sticking up out of land, and they buried people in there in the exact way as the Windover bog site. So let me show you some of this.
Man, let's get into it, man. Shout out to everybody in the building. Oh, this ain't it, is it?
No, that's not it.
Jim, somehow Dr. Longo got kicked off while we wait on him to come back, man. Let's get everybody in the chat, man. Y'all can get y'all questions together, man. I'm gonna allow y'all to ask one question. Y'all can hit the call-in number. I will open up the call-in number in just a second. So yeah, man, y'all get ready to get y'all questions in. If y'all enjoying the live stream, support the channel, man. Cash App and PayPal information at the bottom of the screen, man. Y'all don't support nothing, man. Hey, this is a good bill, man. Eat the meat and spit out the bones. I know this next conversation that we're on now could be partly controversial about the European bones being found, but it doesn't really talk about skin color. And we know that the first Europeans, what they depicted as. So that's another conversation that we're gonna get into. But I think this is gonna be a good one. Hey, Patrick, I know it. Listen, I know it, brother. I know it. You understand? It's gonna be a good one. We get good. Just calm down, y'all. Y'all gotta calm down.
Where did you kick me?
No, I don't know what happened. I didn't kick you. I don't know what the hell happened. I thought maybe you jumped off. I was waiting for you to get back on. Yeah. So whenever you're ready to put that video up, I'm ready. It's ready.
Okay. Well, here I'll show a couple pictures first,
Okay, let's go.
so you can see the similarities between some burials in Europe. So this is Finland on the left, and this is the Windover Bog Bodies, Florida, on the right. And this was written by a Finnish person. This one right here. From talking with local archaeologists and Lund professors, I distinctly remembered them showing me photos and sketches of some ancient Neolithic burials in a large bog on Ven Stormossen. The burials were exactly like the ones above. The archaeologists were intrigued because this type of burial was commonplace in southern Finland and Karelia, extreme northwest Russia, about 6,000 to 8,000 years ago. Nordic and Russian archaeologists believe that they were the ancestors of the Sami. Judging from the films on YouTube about the Windover Pond site, Florida archaeologists don't seem to know that the burials identical to those in Florida can be found in southern Sweden, southern Finland, and Karelia. But given the results of the most recent DNA studies of Windover mummified bodies, this is highly significant. You will enjoy this video. Okay, so I'm gonna send.
Y'all heard it. Y'all gonna enjoy this motherfucking video.
Oh, I don't know about enjoy it. Might get some people fired up, but so this is in Florida. I think you got it now. This is in the peninsular Florida.
Re-examining sections of DNA called haplogroups in the brains of 5 Windover people. He's looking for haplogroups found only in native North Americans because finding them would corroborate all previous work.
When I sequenced larger fragments and I was looking for the sites that I know are characteristic of Native American haplogroups, I was surprised because I did not find them.
In contrast to all previous findings, Lorenz couldn't confirm the Windover people were Americans. Further investigation revealed something even more remarkable.
I went back to the screen and I looked at the sequences again. The first person's DNA, it looked European. When I looked at the second one, it looked European. When I looked at the third, fourth, and fifth, they were slightly different from the first two, but they looked European.
Lorenz had found DNA unlike any other from Native Americans.
Yo, that's crazy. Hey, so the DNA analysis said it's definitely European. I can't hear you. Hold on, you gotta unmute yourself.
He got in some trouble for that because, you know, they don't want to talk about who the true Aboriginal Americans are, just like they don't want to talk about who else might have been here before Columbus. So it's the same war that they're fighting. They're fighting against the Aboriginal Americans, yes, but there's other elements of Europe that must have crossed the Atlantic at some point. But why aren't we being told about them? Why is that swept under the rug, along with a lot of other stuff? Now, I'd like to touch on what you said about the European race is the newest. And I think I've heard Farrakhan say in one of his speeches that they are an Arctic race, that we're Arctic from the ice people, I think he said, right? Ice people. Well, that's true. There's truth to that. European people, the original European people, descend from Finland, from the North Pole, from Arctic, from the ice. They were trapped in the ice. And originally, and no one's gonna like to hear this, but it's you know, it's what I believe to be true. I think I said last time, there was one family on this planet, a copper-colored family. And as things happened and the earth was shifted around, you had different seasons coming to different places. You had different continents being formed. And after the deluge, different groups of people were cast into different corners of the earth and isolated. Whereas before you had an open trade system, an open travel system. Well, back then, in paradise times, like I said, one family, one color. What happened when ice came, when the Atlantis period came, right? Paradise means before the ice. Paradis, parad, ice, paradis. Atlantis means during the ice, or when all the land is ice. All the land ice. Atlantis. That's Atlantis. Then you have this mass period of isolation. The word isolation, the European race originates out of isolation. They were stuck behind the ice of Northern Europe, whereas the tropical races spread out outside of the ice in the tropical zones. They retained their hue, their hues, right? The human race. This was the creation of the human race. In biblical times, in paradise times, we had mankind, one family on this planet. You could go from Finland to Somalia and see the same people, same family looking people, when this whole earth was tropical, subtropical. And they even tell you this in the mainstream. They just say that it was the Jurassic period with the dinosaurs 50 million, 60 million, bajillion years ago, that you had the whole earth being tropical, mango, banana, coconut. So you can even substantiate this in the archaeological record. They just put it back way too far in history. So when you have your first Europeans showing up from after the recent ice age. So yes, 22,000 years ago max is when white people first left the North Pole. Blue-eyed, white-haired, white-skinned. I mean, really, really white. I can go out to the beach and I can get tan, right? I'm about as dark as Sean King. You know, I can go out to the beach and get pretty dark. These first people could not tan. They were so sun sensitive that they had to wear red ochre skin paint to protect their skin, or they were getting so sunburnt that they would be red as soon as they came down south. So these are your original red skins. These are your red skins, are sunburned Vikings traveling down into places like Florida around 10,000, 8,000 years ago, the first time that the white race was poking around and making its way into these different lands. And this is what I would say these bog bodies are. It's one of these first waves of European people coming out of the North Pole after the recent ice age on a boat, coming to where most things wash up in a boat in the Atlantic, Florida, the Caribbean area. The Gulf Stream will just bring you right in. So especially if you're leaving the North Pole after an ice age, and the only part of the Northern Hemisphere thawed out is the part that the Gulf Stream has traced from the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of Finland. So Finland to Florida. And those bog burials I was just showing you are identical to burials in Finland. Now, it's no coincidence that I, right now, am sitting in Lake Worth, the most Finnish city in Florida, in America, one of the most Finnish cities outside of Finland. Well, why did the Finnish choose this city? And it's right across the bridge from where Trump is. Palm Beach. Palm Beach is across the bridge. I'm in Lake Worth right now. Lake Worth is one of the most Finnish places in the world outside of Finland. That is because the Gulf Stream comes closest to America right here. So that's why they chose this place to resettle after World War One, World War
last
Two.
ice age. Okay, so listen, man. I want to get into a few things. This is some good information, man. I know a lot of people may lean towards whatever way. So it doesn't really give a descriptive. It does give a geographical location compared. And are they comparing these bog bodies to modern Europeans, or are they comparing them to Europeans of
Right.
1,000 years ago that they found there?
Now you make a good point, because the first word out of that geneticist's mouth was, we were trying to look for traits that we associate with Native Americans. So I'm gonna guess that in that guy's head, he's thinking of the Pocahontas,
Right.
the Disney Channel Native Americans. And when he's looking for that DNA and he's not seeing it, his first impulse might be European. Now, the counter to that would be that he knows what those haplogroups are, and he knows they do originate from across the Atlantic. So that DNA does come from across the Atlantic, or it went across the Atlantic, but either way, it's on both sides of the Atlantic where it should not be. So to have that there, you could be talking about ancient Europeans and ancient Americans, and the group that you have in between there, the Asiatic horseback riding bow and arrow people with the paint and that we typically see in the cowboy movies.
Right.
Those people were not showing up on the DNA test at all. So I think that's the most important thing to take away from it.
Are we can we is it safe to assume that is maybe the blonde hair, blue eye European that is being
Now,
or is it an indigenous European like Cheddar Man? Are you familiar with Cheddar Man, Chromomagnet Man that they found in Europe? Which one are they comparing it to? That's just what I would like to know.
all I have to go off of is the same like 2-minute video that we just watched together. So he's using the word European. Now, I've seen other people describe that bog bodies always have red hair, that the bog bodies in Florida have red hair or strawberry blonde hair, and the Phoenicians were known to have red hair. And when you see the seafaring melanated people of the Pacific, they're melanated, they're almost Africoid, you could call them, mistakenly, I would say that's an African person, right? But you see they have this curly blonde hair and curly red hair like you'd see in Ireland, right? So this red hair, curly red hair is what you were finding in the bog bodies as well. So I think the Phoenicians had red hair. So when you go to Finland today, you see almost white hair and blue eyes. There you go, bingo, bingo. Yeah. So you might have been. This might have been what he was calling European, where they might have had some European traits like blonde hair, or people were mixing. I think a lot of people in the Aboriginal community, and I'm not speaking from within the Aboriginal community for sure, but I think a lot of people don't like to admit how much mixing would have been going on in the ancient world. Obviously, it would have been culturally frowned upon by many cultures, but mixing did happen. You did have DNA swapping, and I hate to break it to some people, not every white person's evil. So I'm sure you had black tribes. I'm sure you had black tribes mixing with white travelers here and there and depositing genes. And when Spain came to Florida in America, they weren't just in England too. When Spain and England were coming to America, they weren't just erasing the indigenous history. They were erasing the indigenous history, They were erasing all history that took the glory away from themselves. And that would include any Europeans who got in a boat and made it to America before they did. So that's kind of the game that we're left with.
Hey man, that's a dope correlation, man. For those that don't know, do y'all research on the Wendover, Florida bog body. Uh, get into it, man. They got scientific journals put out by Nature, all type of information on that particular anthropology site. So, man, let's move on.
Sure.
Let's get to some of these ancient ship docks and some of the tools that would have been used, like anchors. I've seen some of your videos dealing with some of the ancient anchors, and so we want to kind of talk about that before we get ready get out of here, because I've been wanting to touch on these, because this is going to get into ancient sea traveling, the ability to make seaworthy traveling devices heavy enough to carry large groups, right? And to be able to dock properly without destroying your ship, which you need an anchor for those.
Well, what do you call that process? What do you call that whole process of docking a ship and tying it up? Mooring. To moor something.
Let's go.
You moor a ship, you moor a zeppelin, an airship, etc. So that's one of your connections. That tells you a lot about Moorish culture. You know, like we were talking about before, some people debate Moorish, Aboriginal, you know, and sometimes it gets turned into a fight. And I was largely unaware of that until I was on your guys' channels. But when you just break down the linguistics, you realize there's not so much to get emotional about. You know what I mean? Even if something's wrong, you can dissect it and take what's useful. So for someone to hear a word like moor, or a ship is going to moor
they get upset.
Exactly. Some people do, and they think Aboriginal does not mean that you're from this land and your people have only ever been stuck in America. You know, if this was a great culture, they surely would have had boats and anchors, giant boats.
Would have went everywhere, right? Would have went everywhere.
Oh, yeah. Exactly. And the ones that landed in Eurasia after the flood were just the lucky ones, the ones that got lucky and were already on the open sea when this flood came, or whatever came, and they were able to transmit civilization to the eastern continents after this cataclysm with a big ship, a big ark. And we almost know for sure, almost for certain, that ark was built in the Apalachicola River area of Florida, where you have the wood that Noah's Ark was made of, from gopher wood. That's in Tallahassee area. You know Tallahassee? Well, just south of there, you know, a couple hours south, Tampa Bay, also on the Gulf Coast of Florida. Tampa Bay has the anchors. So you have the wood to the ships, then you have the anchors, and what's the third piece that you need? Docks, a port, right? A place to put these boats. You have the wood,
right?
You have the anchors for the boats.
You got the wood to make the boats. Mm-hmm. Now we got a place to the dock to get ready to moor off.
Exactly.
The ship off. Right.
Now,
let's go.
Tampa Bay is the world's most perfect, protected, natural seaport. And
what do you mean by that?
So in Plato's description of Atlantis and a couple descriptions of Atlantis, there was an inland sea, a sea that was protected from the outer sea. And this inner sea was the Crystal Sea. And this was smooth, a very smooth, shallow, protected sea, but still deep enough for ships to come into and deliver their goods and take their goods. Well, the Gulf of Mexico is that perfect Crystal Sea. It is protected by Florida and the Yucatan. Do you know what a breakwater is? Like at a bay, like a big bay, you'll see like that big line of rocks going out into the ocean, and it doesn't really make any sense. Well, that line of rocks is, for those that don't haven't spent a lot of time on a boat, I haven't spent much. A breakwater is very useful to a bay. Anywhere you see boats docked up, it's because they're being protected somewhere down upstream from the water flow. And usually that's in the form of a breakwater. A breakwater is a long strip of land or rock or constructed material. Well, Florida is a natural breakwater. The Yucatan Peninsula is another natural breakwater. And within those two, you have this perfect, almost like a toilet bowl, perfect little pool, a bay, a gulf, protected from the rough Atlantic Ocean. So that crystal sea is protected. Within that crystal sea, you have another, even more protected bay. That is Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay it's surrounded by shallow waters, very calm, very clear, crystal waters. And this bay is even more protected than the Gulf of Mexico. So you have 2 degrees of protection, of safety. The chances of a big old, disturbance coming into that area, very unlikely, unless it's man-made, right? like the last 10 years or so, all the disasters in the Gulf of Mexico. Right. But this would have been a perfect harbor. And harbor means safety, right? To harbor someone. So this harbor is the safest and truest harbor in the world. And they would have taken advantage of this. And it is no coincidence that the largest ancient stone anchors in the world come out of that exact area.
And do they got a date? Do they got a date or some type of that they give to these stones?
No.
I know that that they're called the Saxor stones.
Yeah. It's funny because
how many are those in the area? If you can answer.
Now, John Saxor, the man who discovered them and put all the pieces together with this, he believes that there's about 2,000 between Tampa Bay and Tallahassee. 2,000 big ones, over 5,000 pounds.
So we're not with the Noah story. We're not talking about one person leaving out. We're talking about a fleet of people hauling ass for safety, scrounging up what little bit of science that they could find. Right.
Well, not many people made it. Actually, the anchors that we're seeing, as amazing as they are, the anchors that we're seeing are the ones that didn't make it. The ones that got crashed into that's why some of these weigh 10,000 pounds, but they've been pushed hundreds of yards up onto land. And when you take into consideration that coastline today is even hundreds of feet away from where it was 10,000 years ago, well, now you understand something pushed something through these.
This was in motion as it went up here.
Exactly. They got pushed up onto the land, and the wood of the ships, no matter how big the ships were, with a wave that big, and this may have been caused by an asteroid landing in the Gulf of Mexico that, sneak attack surprised Atlantis and sunk it in a single day, as we're told. Well, it wouldn't take much to sink Florida. A tidal wave could almost pass all over all of Florida because there's no elevation to stop it. So Florida could sink in a day. I don't think it will again. As long as I'm seeing rainbows, I don't think so. But what happens is you have all these anchors landing on the west coast of Florida. Now, some of them are on the east coast too. So it wasn't just this, they were all over Florida when this wave came. There's some on the east coast. There's some in central Florida. There's some up by Tallahassee. And those are the anchors. You asked about the docks. So that's a port. Tampa Bay is this perfect harbor. Just outside of Tampa Bay, they have found, or not they, but a group of researchers have looked at satellite image.
My bad, I didn't mean to cut you off. I apologize.
That's all right.
Can we get an image of just a couple of these stones before we get into the next
of course.
about the port, just for the viewers? out there. You know, they love to see some images. Shout out to everybody in the chat, man. Drop a fire emoji in the chat, please, if you're enjoying the live stream, and let us know if you can hear us clear. Want to make sure the audio is good. Shout out to everybody for coming and joining us tonight. I wish blessings and put, shout out to everybody, man. It was a dope one. I'm really enjoying this. We're gonna finish this thing up strong. Let's get it.
So here we have a typical stone anchor. Oh shit. God damn it.
What was that? Some underwater stones, man? What was that?
Yeah. So, they find stone anchors all the time in the Mediterranean, in Austronesia, in the Pacific, in the exact places that you would expect to find evidence of an ancient maritime culture, right? So this right here is a typical ancient stone anchor, and they know for a fact that's an ancient stone anchor. It was used by a boat. It was thrown off the side with a rope and pulled back up, and the fact that it has two holes is evidence that this is not a mooring stone, because the two holes. What?
No, I was just gonna say, or do they have any documented stones from ancient times or anchors that would have used these type of style stones that they compare them to establish this particular artifact?
So this is in the Mediterranean Sea that you're looking at.
Okay.
This stone anchor, and stone anchors like this are pulled out in the Mediterranean, in the Pacific, and they know for a fact these were used in boats, and they were pushed off the side of boats. The ones I'm about to show you, they don't acknowledge that. So the reason I'm showing you the small ones is so that you know, and your viewers know, what an ancient stone anchor is, so that when you see the big ones, you'll be able to
identify them.
Exactly.
Right.
You'll be equipped to say for yourself whether that's an ancient stone anchor or not. So right here, typical stone anchors. I'll show you some more typical stone anchors. All right, can you see that still on my screen?
Yep. Might want to zoom in just a little bit so we can see it.
Okay, I will. So you see how they'll often have two holes or more than one hole. And the reason for that is when they get stuck at the bottom, you would be able to shimmy them loose. By one person would go on one side of the boat, another person would go on the other side of the boat, and you could pull either side of the rope and kind of shake this rock loose. That's why they have multiple holes. And so that's a very telling characteristic, especially these guys.
Dope. Yeah, man.
Limestone. Yeah. So now those are just regular ancient stone anchors. Now, what's so unique?
So them a giant stone anchor. Okay. That's the deal. We ain't looking at no regular stuff. We looking at some giant stone anchor.
Okay. So you're gonna start seeing some like this. This is Boca Raton, Florida, on the East Coast. This is giant, big. You could probably, if you really wanted to, you could fit a skinny person through that hole. A skinny little girl, you could probably fit through there.
So imagine a fucking rope. Excuse my language. Imagine the rope. Dang.
And there's rope marks on them too. Now, believe it or not, a 10,000-pound anchor would only need 1 3/4 of an inch rope to hold. So it's thick, but it's not that thick. You'd still be able to handle a rope like that. This is St. Petersburg, Florida, so Tampa Bay area.
And what type of technology would you have to bore a perfectly round hole like that? Either that's rope marks or screw marks from a giant drill.
Yeah. Now, some of them, these people, to be advanced means that you're not wasting energy, right? To me, that means advanced. To not waste energy, to not waste resources. So if there are natural holes in limestone, which sometimes occur, and you'll see circular holes very rarely. They're usually very oblong and curvy and not straight like this. But sometimes natural holes can happen. Well, even if that's a natural hole, it does not explain how the rope marks on the inside of these holes got there. And I'll show you some better pictures of those. But I'm also going to show you a picture of one that looks exactly like it got hit with a drill bit. And if you think these are perfect or circular, just wait till you see this upcoming one. This is also St. Petersburg, Tampa Bay area. Boca Raton, as I showed. St. Petersburg. This is John Saxer on the right. Here's an ancient stone anchor with rope marks. He was featured in Ancient American magazine before it got his research kind of got swept under the rug.
Can you go back and point out where the rope lines, the darker lines is going horizontal?
Yeah. Can you see?
Going vertical?
Can you see my
your mouse?
Mouse. Yeah. So going up here, this isn't a perfect picture. I'll show you one that has very good rope marks. This is Boca Raton. This is somewhere else in Florida. Now we're getting to the big boys. That one right there is probably around 8,000 pounds. That rock right there. So a couple SUVs that thing weighs. A couple SUVs. It's limestone. Now right here is a very obvious groove from rope use that was hugging this corner right here for dozens, hundreds, thousands of years and being used as an anchor, not a mooring stone. So this is clearly indicative of something being submerged in water and pulled back up, not a mooring stone. Some people like to say that think they're mooring stones, and maybe they were used as mooring stones by smaller people.
I'm just imagining what kind of freaking ship you would need a 8,000 pound anchor for. I'm just imagining and putting that together.
Well, the one I'm about to show you, this is the largest one that we believe we found. It's about 15,000 pounds. John Saxer found it, not me. These things are just sitting in front of people's houses. They think that they're just like landscaping rocks. These are not landscaping rocks. These were getting pulled out of the canals of Tampa in the 1920s, and then they were just throwing them up onto people's lawns because they looked cool. And in this area, you have a city called Indian Rocks Beach. Indian Rocks Beach. That's named for these rocks because there's hundreds of them, especially when you go to the beach. They're all sitting there along the coast as if they had just been washed up by the sea.
I read some time ago of an article of the largest archaeological find of canoes dating back a good little few thousand years ago, and it was like 15 to 60 of them in one area. I'm thinking like maybe these was little canoes that they packed on these huge ships, and to get to little islands and land, they would dock away and take these little boats to get to farther land in other places. I'm like, yo.
Yes. Yeah. So this is John Saxer, and right here we have a couple, one definite rope groove. And, these are pictures, not videos. If you want to see the videos, go see my Saxer Stones documentary. I walk around them, take video inside and out, all around them, if you want to see all the angles and stuff. But right here, on the bottom right side of this hole in the middle, you can see where the rope has worn down the inside of this hole from repetitive use. And some people say, oh, well, that holes like this could be natural. Well, I'm going to show you one now that could never. You could not prove this to a chimpanzee that this was natural. This one right here. This bored hole is perfect. That little clump right there is like a little dirt or like a little root growing in the tree. But this hole is perfectly circular. And it's not just a hole like some of these others. It's perfectly bored. So it's bored through with precision, absolute precision. Here's from the other side. You can even see the tooling marks, kind of like a spiral, like a.
It almost looked like a drill, literally.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah, that's crazy. Well, we know, and according to the American Indian Encyclopedia, they was using what they call modern drill bits 12,000 years ago in North America. So, maybe
Not
this is
surprised.
just.
Now, here's another really substantial one. This absolutely proves these are stone anchors. You have one hole, two holes. These holes are parallel. These holes are perfectly parallel and have the exact same width, 17.5 inches across. So that's your drill bit right there. Someone hit that rock with one hole, then hit it with another hole, same size. And you have a perfectly definite rope mark going right here, a streak. You have a couple other ones that are harder to see up here coming down. If you go watch the video, you'll see. And now this one, why does this one look so light and white and tan? Because they actually power washed or pressure washed this one to get the patina off it, because the patina tells you how old these are. The patina on the outside of this rock tells you that it was underwater or has been around for thousands of years. The inside was pressure washed in the back of this rock, or where it broke off, where it's been worn down by use. Well, right here, they pressure washed the entire thing because it's in the front of the neighborhood, and they wanted it to look, I don't know, white. What do they call whitewashing history, right? They whitewashed the anchors too. They bleached this thing, but
can't keep nothing together with these people. No.
Here's some more. Here's a perfect. There you go. There's your perfect rope.
Looks like more large drill marks within the one to the left. Maybe with even some chippage.
Here's just a shit ton. You go all around Tampa Bay area. This is what every beach looks like.
So these are the ones with people that was trying to leave. They was lining up, getting ready to go, and obviously they didn't make it, man.
Well, yes, you're right. But I think there was just at any given time in ancient times, there was a shit ton of ships harbored at Tampa Bay.
Or, like you said, another theory, they already had ships ready to go.
Yeah. Boca Raton. What else we got? That's John Saxer with his when he first started coming out with a lot of this material, he got a little bit of attention from the mainstream. Well, once they figured out what these rocks really show, they shunned him and they swept it under the rug and they stopped talking to him.
Did he have any speculation to where maybe some of these ships are?
Yeah, so he, E.E. Calloway was the Florida Republican candidate for governor in 1936. E.E. Calloway. And he said that Noah's Ark left Florida and landed in the mountains of Ararat. So right where they tell us they landed, they're probably right about where they think Noah's Ark landed, near Turkey, Armenia, the mountains of Ararat, wherever people think it landed. I think it's almost for sure that it departed from the Florida area. So as for the landing, where did some of these boats land? There's remnants of boats in the mountains of Ararat. at the very, very peak of Mount Ararat and in the hills around the mountains of Ararat. So there are things there. Analog, Waking Up with Analog, who I collaborate with a bit. He has theorized that Genoa, Italy, was originally populated by descendants of Noah, Genoa, and you have the Danoa, right? And these are another seafaring people, the Danes, the Dane, tribe of Dan, Danites, Danish, blah blah blah.
Oh man, that's a dope correlation.
So here's a good. This is
it?
Bach. This is Bach Tower,
Mm.
Florida. This is a carving on a tower. So you see this tower in the middle of the picture? That's in Lake Wales, Florida, just outside of Tampa Bay.
Okay.
Tampa Bay is right here, right? You see it's getting blown on by Zeus or Jupiter. This is Zeus or Jupiter, and he's blowing right on Tarpon Springs, where all the anchors are. This area with all this activity going on right here, this is where all the stone anchors are found, Tampa Bay. Now, you know who this was built by? Edward Bach in the middle of Florida. He was a millionaire, possibly a billionaire, one of the most influential men in American history. He was an editor of a couple different journals and magazines and newspaper publications, etc. And he built this granite tower, or marble tower, in the middle of Florida for no reason, just because he wanted to, at the tallest point of peninsular Florida. Now, he put in what was called ancient cities. Let's read this. Model of ornament high above the fireplace. A sculpted map of Florida showing the Singing Tower, St. Augustine, and a few of the other older cities. An alligator, a galleon in the Gulf, a figure of the wind, and below, Neptune riding seahorses. So number one, they just said that St. Augustine is in this picture, right? Well, it's not. St. Augustine is not on this picture. Charleston, South Carolina is. Palm Beach, Florida is. Tallahassee is, but nothing else. So what time period are they showing us? Because St. Augustine is the first city in Florida, allegedly. Why isn't it there? Why isn't well, we can't see Pensacola, but why can't we see any of the other cities?
Are you hinting that he maybe didn't even get this created? That maybe he founded it?
Well, I think he's showing us a hidden history. He's showing us the Garden of Eden. On other parts, here's the same tower. Picture from the same tower. He has all the images of the Garden of Eden, of the book of Genesis depicted on this tower, carved and etched in stone. And you have the Garden of Eden and the story of Atlantis being depicted on this tower in the center of Florida. So why the hell? And this tree is sticking precisely out of Tarpon Springs, Florida, which is where
that tower ain't there no more, right?
It's still there.
Oh damn.
Yeah, it's still there. Bach Tower. Go check it out. It's worth it.
Yeah, that's a trip. I gotta go.
It's pink. It's made out of limestone and marble or granite. I forget. But yeah, and hey, look at this giant alligator. Giant alligators did exist. Well, you have the fleur de lis right there on the compass of this map. Well, this is Poseidon or Neptune, the father of Atlantis. Atlantis was ruled over by Poseidon. So why are they putting Poseidon, a Greek god, or Neptune, in the Gulf of Mexico? And his brother Zeus, Jupiter as well. And why does it look like they're headed towards Tampa Bay. He's blowing on Tampa Bay. That's probably referring to the fact that Tampa Bay is protected against hurricanes. They always blow away from Tampa Bay. They don't sit on top of Tampa Bay. If you've ever heard that Tampa is protected from hurricanes by a native blessing, it's kind of like a folklore in Florida. So yeah, this was a lot of work went into this.
Yeah, look at the ornamentation, the craftsmanship, and like you said, this happened some time ago.
Mm-hmm.
So
let me show you.
Yeah,
Bach Tower. Can you still see my screen?
Yeah, I see it. Yep.
Okay, so there's the tower in the back, Bach Tower. This was like right when it was built, or allegedly built. Might have been founded. Who knows? Found.
That's what I was thinking,
Yeah.
leaning more towards. I'm not even kidding.
Yes. I'm right there with you. You know, the only thing is there's pictures of it being built, but when they built it, they tore something down first, and you can actually see the torn down stone around the building, around the tower. But here you have Seminoles or Miccosukis, Seminoles. Why are they having their picture taken in front of this tower? Makes little sense, right?
Maybe like their ancestors built the shit or something like that.
There you go. There you go. Bach Tower. This is the door of the tower. Okay. And it shows.
Zoom in on this. I want to get some of this. This is crazy.
It shows date palms. It shows the universe being created. It shows, this is like the creation. This is like the story of creation, if I'm not mistaken. Well, here's Bach Tower. It's what it looks like. Pink Tower in the middle of orange groves. It is surrounded by one of the largest orange groves in the world, or lands of orange cultivation in the world. This is what it looks like up front. I've been there, was there with my girlfriend and our cat. It was fun. It's worth going to, even if you're not into all this stuff. It's beautiful. And there's a whole area, fountain. And this tower sings, believe it or not. So yeah, there's also a sundial. We know masons and alchemists love their sundials. So this sundial tells you the day, the month, the year, hour. Well, guess what else it tells you? The signs of the zodiac. The signs of the zodiac are printed onto this tower, as are the scenes of Genesis, creation of man, and depictions of Atlantis and the Greek and the Greco-Roman gods of Atlantis. Why on this tower? Why in the middle of Florida? You know how much money this took? A shit ton.
I don't believe he had. I don't believe he got it done. I'm looking at some of this ornamentation. And at what time did he say he did this again?
1926. About
1926.
Yeah.
Almost during the beginning of the industrial age, to be able to start off with this creative and with ornamentation. I don't know about that. This might very well be found.
Now, you see this thing right here, the sundial with the serpent. The needle of a sundial is actually called the gnomon or the gnomon, Gnomon, like a gnome, right? Well, what if I told you that they actually caught a gnome outside this tower in the orange groves? They caught a small person, tiny person. That was not a midget, not a short person, an actual dwarf.
You're gonna have to show me some shit like that.
Yeah. Well, I wish I could, but there is a police record. So all we have, the proof is a police record. That's the evidence we have There's no picture because it was back, I don't know, 70, 100 years ago in these orange groves. They called the police to come get him. And yeah, I did a whole interview on that.
They arrested the gnome?
Yes, they arrested him, brought him to jail, and there's a police record.
Get the fuck out of here.
Let me see if I can find something for you.
And so did they describe this gnome? I got to see the bug shot.
Here, hang on. Let me see if I can find you something.
This is crazy. I watch this one dude on YouTube. He always claims he catches photo of these little gnomes, if you will. Shout out to everybody in the chat, man. Hopefully you guys are enjoying this live stream, man. We're about to get ready to get out of here. We're almost encroaching on the 2-hour marker. All right.
So, okay. So I can't show you. I don't have any stuff on that, but can you see my, okay, yeah, you can still see my screen. This is in Florida. Yep. This is still in Florida. That's, oh, so, Homo floresiensis is the name for this tiny,
hominid.
Yes, the tiny hominid that did inhabit parts of the planet in our ancient past. And this is a tiny, tiny little, like 1 foot tall, 2 foot tall person. You know what that word means? Homo floresiensis? It means a man from Florence. You could even stretch that and say a man from Florida. We know there was giants in Florida. I have videos about that too.
Well, it has to be the opposite of giants. If it was giants, It's always the opposite.
Exactly.
You do it 2 ways. So, okay, I see where you're going with this.
So now in Florida, do we have any other evidence of shrunken people or small people? Or, well, yes. Do you know there's actually a couple shrunken heads in Florida? Ripley's Believe It or Not Museum has a couple, and in St. Augustine, the oldest city in America, well, the United States, the oldest city, they have a shrunken head on display. They don't really know where it comes from. They don't know what the deal with is, but it's there, and it's a shrunken head. That's a real life head. This is not a hoax, not a fake.
Are you saying that maybe this head ain't even shrunken? Did it come from one of them little people?
Exactly.
Okay.
You can't shrink a head. I don't care how good your magic is. You can't shrink a head that wasn't that small already, right? So they have this on display at the Lightner Museum in St. Augustine, Florida. This is the museum. This is the building, the Moorish castle that has that shrunken head on display inside of it.
And that building looks marvelous in architect as well.
It's a fireproof building. Solid.
They built a fireproof building with marvelous design out of concrete to house artifacts.
Oh yeah, you want to see the best part? You know what it looked like in 1889?
It had a swimming pool in it?
Well, you think that's a swimming pool or you think that's a flooded lobby? They tell us that's a swimming pool, but why would they use it as a cafe now? They used it as a cafe. They drained it. So what was going on in the late 1800s where you have a flooded lobby of this beautiful building? They made this building had a flooded swimming pool as a lobby.
Damn. Yeah. And what happened before that? The Madrid earthquakes, floods.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Mississippi ran backwards for a little bit. Yeah, that's this is the courtyard right here.
That's some mud flood stuff right there. Look at the architect. Look at the design. To build something like this at the beginning of your industrial age is crazy because they haven't built anything close to architecture and ornamentation and craftsmanship today. It's only dwindled from there.
Yeah. So yeah, AP, I think I'm gonna have to get going here.
Yeah, man. Let's get out of here, man.
We'll do it again soon.
You already know, man. Before we get out of here, shout out to everybody in the building, man. We're gonna get out of here, man. Hold your questions, put them in the comment section. Let's get it, man. Make sure y'all drop the fire emojis in the chat, man. We're gonna get out of here. This was a good interview, man, and a lot of information. Y'all gonna have to run it back, dissect it, get some of these sources. You know what I mean? Got your work to do out, man. Every researcher got to do your research.
Yeah, check it out for yourself.
Yes, always. I appreciate you, Dr. Longo. This was a dope interview. I really enjoyed the information. And I'll see you on the next one, man. I'll see you on the next one.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me.
Anything you want to say? Anything you want to say to the people before we go?
Nope. Just thanks to the audience. Thanks for tuning in and hearing with open ears, open mind, and yeah. Thanks for having a pale face honky on tonight. It was
You funny as hell. You funny as shit. Hey man, I appreciate it, Dr. Longo, man. I hit you up, bro. Be safe.
Right. Have a good night.
Enjoy the rest of your night, man. Be safe. Peace. Hey man, make sure y'all hit that like button, man. This was a classic build, man. A lot of information to go through, man. This was one for the books, man. We'll see them again on the next one. Hey man, if y'all enjoy this build, make sure y'all hit that like button, thumb up the video, support the channel. You feel me? Cash App and PayPal information at the bottom of the screen. Shout out to everybody in the building. Let's get it, man. We out of here, man. Make sure y'all enjoy the rest of y'all day, man. Be safe, be aware, stay vigilant, man. I might do a show later on tonight, man. I might hit y'all with one in the morning. Right now, I don't know. But, you know, I do want to shout out a few people that did support the channel. I don't want to get out of here without shouting out the few people that did support the channel. Shout out to y'all, man. Drop a fire emoji if y'all was enjoying the live stream. That ain't, you know what I mean? And we don't always agree with everybody, you know. Shout out to everybody in the building. Shout out to Quentin Price for the Cash App donation. Shout out to Quentin Price. We appreciate that. Thank you, brother. We really appreciate that. Shout out to Snake God. Shout out to Snake God for the Cash App donation. We really appreciate that as well, brother. Thank you. You know what I'm saying? We really appreciate that, man. A lot of time going into these builds. It's 2 hours worth of, you know what I'm saying? Giving y'all some heat tonight. Something y'all can chop up and go do y'all research on. You know what I mean? Appreciate Snake God and Quentin Price. Shout out to Ricardo D. Shout out to Ricardo D for the Cash App donation. We appreciate it as well, brother. Shout out to Ricardo D. Make sure you show him some love in the chat. You know what I'm saying? Y'all know how we do it, man. Y'all know how we give it up. Shout out to Ricardo D. Shout out to Cato as well. Shout out to Cato for the Cash App donation. Make sure y'all support the channel before y'all go, man. You know what I'm saying? Oh, shout out to Cato for the Cash App donation. Appreciate you, big brother. We appreciate that. You understand me? We really appreciate that. All right, shout out to Kevin. Kevin sent in a $5 Cash App donation as well. We really appreciate that, brother Kevin. We appreciate that. Make sure you support the channel as well. Shout out to all the American Aborigines. Shout out to all the like-minded brothers and sisters around the globe, man. Hopefully y'all are enjoying the live stream, man. This is your brother Aboriginal Power. Y'all enjoy the rest of y'all night. I'll see y'all on the next one. Make sure y'all be safe, be aware, stay vigilant, and stay dangerous. It's your brother Aboriginal Power, and we out. Peace.
See, my life has been in motion. I'm a little windy. I'm not giving up yet. If you with me, time to place up your bet. Ain't no turning back, got niggas who ran. When we caught his ass, got caught in that jam. Yeah, you know who I am. Yeah, you know who I am. I can feel it coming. I can feel it coming. It's that feeling in your stomach, you can feel it coming. It's that feeling in your stomach, you can feel it coming. Yeah, you can feel it coming. Fake love, snake you in your face, love. That snake you in your face, love. I told my brothers we gon' make it, that's how God wrote it.
And the snake gon' show his face, cause that's how God wrote it. Too much fake love, that snake you in your face, love. That snake you in your face, love. I told my brothers we gon' make it, that's how God wrote it. And the snake gon' show his face, cause that's how God wrote it. Too much fake love, that snake you in your face, love. That snake you in your face, love. I told my brothers